You know what's crazy? I'm really an introvert.
Okay.
But it's like with networking, your network is your net worth.
Right, for sure.
I had to understand that just from the knowledge that I obtained from my mentors, closed mouths don't get fed.
Mm.
So I had to reach out. I wasn't, I knew that a lot of the times, dealing with people, I didn't really care for it. But for real.
Every single day.
Nah, every day.
Every day, bro.
Yeah.
And it's hard
Yeah.
because we got to stay motivated. And it's like, all right, well, we dealing with we got the superpowers, but then who's gonna be Superman to us? You know what I mean? Certain days it's like I'm tired. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. The harder you grind, the bigger you dream.
Yeah.
The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. I said the harder you grind, the bigger you dream. I said you're up and I'm up. You're now tuned in to the Grind Hard Dream Big Show. The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. I got a special guest in the building. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, man.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Blayther. I'm the CEO of a nonprofit called Pillars of Success, which we are dedicated to empowering returning citizens and at-risk youth. In a way, we help provide housing and also a comprehensive wraparound services such as financial literacy, life, work, and personal development skills to assist with their successful reentry back to society.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes,
man.
sir.
My man says CEO Pillars to Success. And that's a beautiful name, by the way, too. I ain't gonna lie. Because when you're thinking about it, like, we're constantly building a lot of things in life. So it's like what we want to build and how we want to build and being intentional. So I want to say salute to you for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
For sure.
man, appreciate you first and foremost. Thank you. What I'm saying, Grind Hard, Dream Big podcast, man. I'm proud of you, what you doing. It's well needed. You know what I mean? A lot of this deserves our attention. So definitely appreciate you for having me up on here and sharing the knowledge, sharing what I can to pretty much assist with anybody who's looking for guidance, mentorship or whatever the case may be.
For sure, man. So like the early childhood, you growing up, like where were you born, raised, things like that?
So I was born in DC. First generation coming from, Haitian parents. They were immigrants. I believe, I was conceived in Haiti, was born here. So I spent my time, in DC, Maryland a little bit, doing a lot. Ended up going to DeMatha Catholic High School, ended up playing sports. That was like the biggest thing for me. Sports was an outlet for me. You know what I mean? Coming from, that background, your parents always wanted, as immigrants, they always wanted you to live a different type of, or had a different type of expectation for you. For instance, my family, my mother and father, they just wanted me to, hey, be a doctor, be a lawyer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or get your degree so you could work in the government and retire in 20 years. And, that's just, it wasn't for me, you know what I mean? So that's a little bit about my background. Grew up, I was the oldest. So it was more like I had to be a father before I was a father, So, yeah.
For sure. And, you said sports served as an outlet for you. I think that's very, very important.
Right.
In your inner youth as you grow up to find, the outlets that kind of, gave you that safe haven.
Right.
So, you playing the sports and things like that, how did that really like make you feel as well, just like playing the sports? Because, sometimes people be like, that's just a safe haven. I'm good. It was like therapeutic for me.
I mean, it was therapeutic for me. It was everything. Like I had a condition, like I had asthma, and it was to the point where, doctors were telling me, hey, it's kind of bad. You know what I mean? You keep doing this, then, you may, it may not be the best for you. And I just told them, well, why would I be living if I can't do what I love? You know what I mean? It was something, again, it was an outlet. It was something that I was able to express myself. I love sports. I used to just be running around, watch football, basketball. Soccer was the first sport I played. So I was more like an athlete, just always had that competitive edge.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
No, and I can definitely result to that as well, because I would look at sports as a safe haven and just, you play because the homies played or whatever it may be.
Right.
But, you would enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? You'd be happy
Right.
being out there, being like, all right, bet. You know what I'm saying? I'm outside. I'm just chilling. I'm competing. I'm trying to win something. But at the same time, it's like, all right, I can get away from the clutterness or the rowdiness or whatever like that.
Right.
And I'm just glad that I had something to do to keep me occupied.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was definitely dope. So as you transition, from, of course, elementary to middle to high to now, adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how was that, like early phase of adulthood? Because, a lot of people are like, okay, I'm an adult now.
Right.
I'm adult. I'm past 18. I'm
Right.
21. Now
Right.
I'm saying it's like, oh, whoa, like it's this now. So,
Right.
like, how was
Right.
that?
I mean, I had to find myself. I ain't gonna lie to you. Of course, I played football. First time really in high school, and then I just excelled at it. Went to college for it. Had aspirations of being in the NFL. Where it got to the point where I got hurt in front of scouts, things like that, and it didn't work out. So I had to find myself. I was like, dang. I had put all my eggs in one basket. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So it was one of those things. I had to figure things out. And growing up, I always knew, like, I was tired of my mother just. There were days I'd come home and my mother wasn't home because she was always too busy working,
mm,
trying to provide for us, and I wanted to make a difference. And, it was kind of like, man, I got to figure something out because football and workout, and I couldn't go into pressure because I was just like, at the end of the day, I got to make something happen. That's not going to do nothing for me. I
right.
got my little siblings looking up to me, my brothers and sisters. So it was just like I had to find myself. I had to figure it out. And, you know, it was like a divine intervention when like how my career started and how I got into the real estate thing.
Got you for sure. And
Yeah.
it feels like, when it comes to like adversity, your back up against the wall, you had to make something
Man.
shake.
Yeah.
And you were like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. Like, if I had any other hand, I don't want it. I just take the ones that I have and then
Right.
I'll play it through.
Right.
So if I think of like the game of Uno, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the reverse, you got the skip, you got the draw two, draw four. One thing I could say about you, wild card, because you never know what that situation is,
Right.
but you can also take that card and use it to your benefit and use it to your advantage. And I feel like that's what you did.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
that's what you've been able to overcome.
Right.
Like we are all wild cards in some shape or
Yeah.
form because we look at it, what we've learned, what we constantly are learning, what we are unlearning, and what we're
Right.
doing. Know what I mean?
Right.
So
I mean, you
yeah,
had
just
no
being there.
choice for
You
real.
had
You
no
know what I
choice,
mean?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So as you embrace that, right? You
Mm-hmm.
said real estate. What was the motivation behind that? Like real estate and you wanting to, get into that field because um, I think taking a risk nowadays is so hard,
Right.
or anything like that. Or was that something that you kind of looked at and was like, all right,
I
I'm giving it
wanted
a
to
try.
be impactful in a productive way.
Okay.
At the time I was working at the housing authority, DC Housing Authority, and just every day waking up just like, all right, man, working, but this is not my end goal. This is not what I'm trying to do. I had to figure out a pathway where, to fulfill what I want to do and which is going to, pay for the lifestyle that I want to live and be able to provide, you know what I mean, for my family. So, um, it was just one of those situations where, every day, like the role that I was playing, I had like sometimes a lot of times something is it's always it's right in front of you. You could be looking for whatever and it could be right in front of you, but you just don't realize it. So I came across a lot of like, people that are my mentors today and just picking their brain and I'm just, processing paperwork and they coming in, I'm seeing this consistent faces. I'm just like, how's this real estate thing going? Like if, for somebody like myself, what would you advise? And, they were just happy that I even wanted to ask that question and thought about it. And that's where it started from. I wanted to be impactful in a productive way. And I feel like, and that's one thing I learned about myself. I knew about myself that I was always helpful to people. I was always a reliable person, whether it's for my mother, my siblings, my friends, my peers. I was always reliable, and I took pride in that. And I knew that, helping people was the way I wanted to go. That was the route.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like you always will win more in life when you are of service. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like, how can I help you is always going to be more important than
right,
what can I gain.
right.
Because then you realize, okay, dang, bro, I'm adding the value here,
Yep,
adding the value here.
yep,
Now that this person becomes more valuable,
yep.
dang, that was clutch.
Nah,
You know
for
what I'm saying?
real.
In these certain situations where you're like, I don't even have the answer. This person do. You know what I'm
Nah,
saying?
for
I
real.
don't even know. I don't even know what spot I could. This person do. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And you
Yeah.
just realizing what you're doing overall,
Right.
and now all of a sudden you're not stressed
Right.
because now you have value to add.
Right.
I think sometimes with us, we struggle because we're like, okay, man, we want X, Y, and Z, but it's like, yo, what we have to start bringing things to the table. We have to
Yes,
start
absolutely.
valuing
I
the
agree.
things that we need to do because
No,
it's
for
like,
real.
yo, okay, bet. I'm saying you got a table over there, but what do I look like coming through empty-handed, wanting to eat
Mm-hmm.
your chicken, your steak, your lobster, and all that with no utensils or not
Right.
even that of
Right.
my own? It's like,
Right.
bro, what? It's
Right.
supposed to be a buffet when we eat. We
Yep.
supposed to be good. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
and not worry about it. But I think that sometimes when we're not adding the value, that's the frustration, and
Yeah.
in the grind and in that because there's been plenty of times where you may have overexerted yourself in the situation or feel like, dang, man, you know what? I was carrying 100 pounds. Why am I carrying 200
Man,
now?
it's
Why
definitely
am
a
I
gift and a
carrying 300
curse.
now?
It's definitely a
Now I
gift
mean,
and a curse. Nah, you're right.
in those situations. So
Facts.
now it's like, okay, but now that you are adding value to these situations, I can clearly see that the weight is lighter. Because
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, I got a team.
Right.
I got people I can go to, assistance here, assistance here.
Right.
Yo, it could be like, yo, we got this.
Mm-hmm.
And those are two different things. One is singular, obviously, and I, and we being plural. But now that it's moving that way, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see now it's like you can hit different pockets, you can
Mm-hmm.
do different things. So the power of networking, how has that been vital in the space that you're in?
You know what's crazy? I'm really an introvert.
Okay.
Um, but it's like with networking, your network is your net worth.
Right, for sure.
I had to understand that just from the knowledge that I obtained from my mentors, closed mouths don't get fed.
Mm.
So I had to reach out. I wasn't, I knew that a lot of the times, dealing with people, I didn't really care for it, but I knew that I didn't have all the information that I wanted and
Right.
that I could learn from somebody else.
Right.
That's another thing that football prepared me for that because of course you have coaches, you
Yes.
know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
learning, techniques,
Yes.
things like that. So it was something that I had to embrace if I wanted to get further. I knew that, as far as growth, I had to be uncomfortable, and that was somewhat uncomfortable for me. But I knew that I wanted to get somewhere. I had a goal, again, providing, being able to do things, live a life that I want to live. I had to step outside the box, and that was part of me stepping outside the box. So, networking just, I knew that if I wanted to obtain a lot of this information, networking was the way, or it was a step. It was a stepping stone. So, yeah, that's how networking
Yeah, not for
became
sure.
crucial.
And I think that, for me, networking is important too, because, being a natural learner, like you
Yeah,
said, right? It's
yeah,
like, yo, as I'm continuing to learn, I want to learn because now it's like, okay, you don't got to be you don't have to be the sharpest.
right,
You don't have to be the smartest.
right,
And it's okay that you're not because
yeah,
once you're doing that and you surround yourself with people that are further down the line,
yep,
now you've learned that
mm-hmm,
information. Then it's like, yo, hey, yo, can you put me on? And then that's what I feel like a boss is too. I feel like a boss is someone that puts somebody in position. You know what I mean? Regardless
definitely,
of what it is, it's like you can learn and it's like,
definitely,
yo, somebody, hey yo, I want to learn about that real estate thing too.
yep,
All right, cool. I'll give you some
mm-hmm,
advice or whatever like that. Cause you know what? I'm learning. But then after that, you keep it generational where it's like, all right, bet. This person passes me the information. I pass it to this person. This person passes it on to the next. The information.
yep,
Because once we have the information, then it's the application and then it's the everything else.
yeah,
Know what I
I
mean?
agree.
So I think that that's definitely important, man. And like, don't be afraid to network. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think a
Yeah,
lot of us are afraid because of, pride, ego.
pride,
Yeah,
ego, yeah,
pride and ego. And I can understand that too because a lot of us may be like, you know what? I got all the answers. I'm good over here. But it's like, nah, bro.
yeah,
Nah.
yeah. That's just like a team. I mean, what would you rather? You know what I mean? Winning ships or just winning personal accolades?
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like,
I'd rather win a chip knowing that I averaged 7 points
right.
rather than scoring 30 and I got put out first
Yeah,
round or
yeah, you
something.
getting
Like, nah,
scoring
bro.
titles, that's cool, but
Yeah.
does that,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want? What are you playing the game for? You know what I
Right.
mean? Just for that, or are you playing to win the ship and, getting in the books for real?
Yeah,
You
for
know what I mean?
sure.
So, yeah.
You can make impact and things like that. And
Yep.
if we're looking at like basketball, I think of Robert Horry. You know what I'm saying Robert Horry got a lot of chips.
Yeah.
He did what he had to do on those teams.
Yeah.
He may not have been talked about as much, but every team he went to, he added value. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
He played
and
his
that's what you
role.
play
He
your
played
role.
his
You
role.
play your role.
Yep.
And I think that that's what a lot of people can learn from as well. So like as you're building community and you're doing these things, diving into Pillars for Success.
Yeah, pillars of success. Yeah.
What did you uh why did you feel like that was definitely needed? I mean, obviously, in the DMV, we're talking about an area that is so rich in different aspects when it comes to probably, of course, entertainment, fashion, all these other things. But what made you feel like, okay, this was my call to action and being a part of this?
Um, I'm gonna be honest. I was already doing the work.
Okay,
So being a landlord, um, again, going back to my whole intentions was to impact, the community in a productive way. So I intentionally wanted to become a landlord to give back to, the community as far as the affordable housing way.
got you,
I'm an affordable housing advocate. I'm a, social justice, justice reform advocate as well.
got you.
So, I had my tenants, they just came from different walks of life. I believed in second chances.
Yes,
And, shout out to, Bishop Gray, one of my mentors. He was actually one of the counselors for one of my tenants. And he's seen, what I did just to make sure that my tenants were comfortable no matter what kind of lifestyle they had, you know what I mean? Whether they were, just privileged, non-privileged, just underserved.
yeah, right.
And he seen that I was doing the work, and it was something that he was like, hey, you should get into this. And I was like, oh, that's possible? And that's how I got into it. Just already doing the work. I went through a lot. At landlord, it was just a lot of learning curves. I learned a lot in terms of, you know, doing business and how you have to protect your assets, how you have to go about, conflict resolution and
Yeah,
things of that nature. You can't just make, subconscious, decisions. You know what I mean? It has to be very consciously. Like you have to understand what you have at stake, and for your business, you have to make sure that you make the best decision for your business because again, it could be taken away from you just like that, and because you made an emotional decision, can determine how your life ends up.
no, for sure, and that's the biggest thing about business, right?
Yep.
Some of us can get tied into the emotions,
Yep.
where the emotions can run that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important to listen to understand as opposed to reply, and also having the people that are sharper than you in that field
Mm-hmm.
because they've been there, they've done that. That's
Mm-hmm.
where the experience comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that somebody actually poured into you, invested into you, and was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yo, let you know that it is possible."
Mm-hmm.
Because there was that point in time where you probably like, "Man, okay, I'm just moving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know."
Yeah.
But now it's like, all right, you know what? I could
Yeah.
really
Yep.
mold this. I could really, hey, yo, give you a glimpse and show you something where it's like, okay, now, yo, I car was in neutral. Now I put it in drive.
Yeah.
Or yeah, it was
Yep.
in park for a minute. Now I put it in drive.
Yep.
Now I'm saying I ain't got to sit there and put it in reverse no
Yep.
more. You know what
Yep.
I mean? So I think it's definitely,
Yep.
dope that somebody literally was able to show you that. And that goes into mentorship, which is another pillar,
Right.
what you're doing as well. How vital do you feel like it is in the community to have mentorship?
It's very crucial. Just like how you mentioned networking, it was very crucial for that. To add to the previous question, of course, it was, having my peers. I didn't grow up in the best environment, you know what I mean? But I also knew that I had a lot of, you know, intelligent individuals around me that just didn't have the guidance. You know what I'm saying? They lacked the support. Of course there were times where, I could have easily been an offender. It was just thanks to God that, he protected me in that sense. And some people they have to go through that just to, just because that's just it's just everybody has their own story. So they
Yeah.
had to go through it to understand it and find their purpose through that. You know what I mean? Of course, facing adversity and stuff. So yeah, mentorship very crucial. I would say, like as far as my situation, I was able to impact and help, others by me seeking mentorship. Me reaching out to individuals saying, "Hey, I would like to, can you teach me how to do this? What's the best way of me going about it? What would be the best investment? Whether it was a single family, whether it was a condo, whether it was a multifamily, which I got into the multifamily game early, at 26.
Gotcha.
So I would say mentorship is very critical because again, a lot of people out here just lack guidance. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think mentorship is definitely important. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for me, like in the community having a community mentor. So shout out to Miss Kimberly Marshall. That's Dare to Be Different. She's like a second mother to me.
Okay.
She really
Shout
helped
out.
me understand like the notion of organizing, planning, and executing like community events. Okay, this is what you want to do. Hey, yo, pop up here so you can see how it's ran. All right,
Right.
now when it's your turn, this is what it's got to be like when we're executing it and making sure that you're planning, making sure that you communicate with all the people X, Y, and Z. For speaking, I have a mentor, Backpack Jeff. He taught me how to like
Mm-hmm.
formulate speeches and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And he's been speaking for like 7 to 8 years. And he was just sitting there telling me the more that you do it, the more consistent you get with it, the better
Right.
you're gonna be. So I actually started speaking in 2022. You know what I'm saying? So I'm only at year 3, so I can't look at somebody
Man.
that's year.
Is that what year 3 look like for
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
literally. So like,
Okay.
but I'm looking at it from a standpoint of okay, I can't look at because I don't know how long all these other people have been speaking.
Right.
So like sometimes when you look at it, like man, I want the big stages, I want X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
It's like literally maximizing and utilizing the territory that God gave you. And then after that, you'll realize that
Mm-hmm.
it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
And like I said, man, I ain't gonna lie. Like a lot of people look back like, dang, this is what this is looking like for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This God got some more things in store. We just gonna keep grinding for sure.
Yeah, nah,
Now
for
I'm saying
real.
literally in that, and then with podcasting, for me, I watched a lot of other podcast shows and just realized, okay, like just studying how to interview and things like that. So that's where it comes
Yeah.
from. Like always being in student mode, always learning. Because I don't never feel like, oh yeah, man, I'm comfortable, I'm good. No, I'm always either reading a book, always watching the interview. How can I always get better? Not too high,
Okay.
not too low. I
Okay.
mean,
You was grinding hard, dreaming big for real.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, literally, man.
All
So
right.
that's what it really
That's what's
was
up.
for
Proud
me.
of you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And like for the youngins, it's like for me working with them, I see like my younger self, where it's like, all right, cool,
Yeah.
like okay, I struggle with like listening to understand. I always wanted to be heard. You know what I'm saying? And then
Mm-hmm.
finding those outlets and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And then just realizing like like you said as well, like at risk youth, like you're talking about environments where, these kids and where they live at, a lot of them are in survival mode.
Absolutely.
But when we talk to them or where we're, encouraging them, we're inviting them into our atmosphere. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? We're not looking at, oh yeah, you know what I'm saying, he from the hood, he from here, you know what
Right.
I'm saying? So he should be treated or she should be treated
Right.
that way. Nah, you're not the block, you're not this. Nah,
Right.
subtract all that. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? We're gonna add value in this situation, and I want you to be invited into my space where everybody could be treated the same.
Yeah.
And I think
Definitely.
that that's definitely dope in what you're doing as well, where you're saying underserved communities
Right.
because it's like okay, we could live in the same area per se, but we're underserved. We're not being heard, and
Right.
I think that it's also being a voice for the voiceless
Right.
because you may know it
Right.
rather than somebody else
Right.
be knowing it because you're literally advocating every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
that's how I feel about this. It's like,
Yeah.
yo, a voice for the voiceless.
Right.
There's a lot of people that want to do what we do,
Mm-hmm.
but they just never probably saw somebody that looked like them that's actually doing it. So
Right.
we're actually impacting people every single day.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Nah, for real.
Every single day.
Nah, every day.
Yeah, every
like,
day, bro.
Yeah.
And it's hard
Yeah.
because we got to stay motivated. And it's like, all right, well, we dealing with we got the superpowers, but then
Mhm.
who's gonna be Superman to us? You know what I
Right.
mean? Certain days it's like I'm
Man.
tired. You feel what I'm
Man, oh,
saying?
man. Yeah.
So like we had to go through that. So like all the work that we do, man, like what does the self-care look like for you?
Self-care is just it's crucial. You know what I mean? Self-care, allows us to understand our value and build a self-esteem. For instance, with our members, we let them know like, hey, at the end of the day, you have to show value within yourself. Like a lot of them, they come home and they're trying to settle.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, it's just like one of them things like, look, it's no settling. It's what you want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's what you want to do because the 90 days before you knew you was coming home, there were things that you knew that you wanted to get done or there were things in your mind. So, self-care, it's just you owe you.
Yeah.
You have to invest in you. Like, and what, I was able to assist and help and get this far because I invested in myself, and it came with taking sacrifices.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of the times, a lot of people end up in bad situations because they were loyal to the wrong person.
Mm, that's heavy.
You
Yeah.
get what I'm
That's
saying?
true though. That's true though.
They were
Yeah.
loyal to the wrong individual, or they
Yeah.
were in the wrong crowd, or they're just this stand up individual. And again, and you just loyal to the wrong individual.
Yeah. And I want to piggyback off of what you're saying as far as investments, because that's what I want a lot of people to understand. Like for me, yeah, we were sitting there talking about, like, we could talk about shoes, we could talk about all that. I ain't
Right.
gonna lie. Certain days I want the cop shoes. I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
I could. This is more important.
Right.
Because once you make that investment in yourself, people will understand that. It's like I tell the kids all the time, people will take you serious when you take yourself serious.
Right.
So when you take yourself serious and you're literally going to go after your dreams, you're going to do all those things and put all those action steps into place, and then people see it fruition because what you told yourself, like at the end of the day, you got to be your biggest fan.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You would rather lie to people or lie to yourself. You can't either or.
Right.
You're not supposed to, like,
Right.
nah, we're not doing that. But like that's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Got to keep it 100 with yourself too.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, yo, it could wait. The shoes and all that could wait. You could grind and do whatever you want to do. I'm not sitting there saying like, yo, this is what you should prioritize your life in, but you could tell a lot about people and what they prioritize their time into. You know what I'm
Definitely.
saying? Regardless of that. So it's like, yeah, okay. You want to sit there and, you got this business, put bread into your business. Okay, cool. You want to invest into a stock, do that. You want to sit there, make sure the bills is paid, X, Y, Z. Like, just make sure that you're standing on your principles, you know what I'm saying? And your priorities and what you handle in life. Because once you handle all of those things, people are going to be like, all right, cool.
Right.
I know what type of time it is with him.
Right.
I can respect her. I can respect him because I see how they carry themselves. It's the character. It ain't about, yeah, I got X, Y, and Z and I'm this. You know what I'm saying? Nah. We doing this in real life.
Nah, for
you
real.
changing lives in
Nah,
real
for
life.
real.
We ain't
Nah.
gotta sit there and be like,
Yeah.
you feel what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, yeah,
And
it's bigger than that.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's just like, for instance, a lot of people think, it takes a lot of money to have your dreams going on, but that's not the key. It takes a lot of discipline.
Yes.
And sacrifice. Because I ended up purchasing an apartment building in DC, which is one of the most expensive markets. I was only making $33,000 a year. $33,000 a year in 2017. You get what I'm saying?
Right, right.
It's not about how much money you make. It's all about what you do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like it goes. I had to sacrifice relationships. There were times where I just say, you know what, you deserve a lot, baby girl, but I can't. Right now I owe me right now, and that I'm trying to get somewhere.
Right.
And I don't want to hold you up, and you deserve you deserve a lot. You know what I mean? And,
right.
You are a human being, and you're beautiful, whatever the case may be. But right now, I need to focus on certain things. I have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
I sacrifice going outside. 80, 90, you know how the summertime is out here. It's a lot to do. It's a lot of distraction. Hey, come outside.
Yeah.
Can't fade it.
You can't fade it, nah.
Can't
Because you got to build yourself up.
Right.
And that's the thing, too. It's like, yeah, and people will treat you different when you become the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Because they know, like, oh, you used to do this. You used to do that. Like, and I tell people all the time, like, English and reading is my favorite class, so I always use this. Oh, man, I remember what it used to be. Past tense. Oh, yeah. What you used to do. Remember the time when?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's not about what the past ain't got nothing new to say. As you continue to evolve and embracing your present, your future is only dictated by what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's what people have to understand. So I just tell myself, like, yo, like, if they keep bringing up the past, okay, yeah, you can sit there and dwell on that. But if they continuously do that, all right, man, like, reevaluate the circles and things like that. Because it's only certain things you can really feed your mind. Your mind is so powerful, bro. Like, you can't tell you, like, oh, yeah, man, this is what you used to do.
Right.
Tell them what I'm doing now. You see what I'm doing now. Like, come on, what you mean?
Right.
Like, nah, we ain't gonna have to deal with that. Nah. Like, and then pour into the people that's around you. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, bet. Like, yeah, you see me grinding and working X, Y, Z, like a word of encouragement, understanding that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, prioritize what you feel is important. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna root for your friends, your friend win, you win.
Yeah.
Because that's your friend, right? So y'all won together.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, y'all was in this battle together. You in the struggle together. Like, you know what I'm saying? We win, we all win.
Right.
We can't be looking at it like, oh man, you know what? Bump that person. That person won, but I ain't win. What? We were just talking the other day. What
Yeah.
you mean? Like,
Yeah.
we was just talking about this the other day, or whatever it may be. So it's like, yo, like, be proud of the people that, you know, you want to win, bro, because your win is on the way, bro.
Yeah. And like, yeah, and this funnels back down to sports. It's all about how you finish.
Yeah.
You can start the game 0 for 12 and you know, you might get the game winner. Like I seen LeBron, you know, he had one of his terrible games, but guess what? He won it. He made the game winning shot. He finished off strong.
Yeah, he kept shooting. He kept playing. You got to still keep playing through it, because at the end of the day, you gonna know it's your skill, it's your will. And I like how you sat there and said the UOU, because that was a book that I actually read by Eric Thomas, and he was just talking that, like, yeah, that's a great motivational speaker right there.
Yeah, shout out to him too.
Yeah, he's literally
setting an example, being a role
setting
model.
an example. Like,
yeah,
the whole grind and waking up early in the morning, man. He be putting the battery in my back. He's up 3 a.m, shooting content, and they're like, yo, man, like, he's the #1 motivational speaker in the world. His grind, you wouldn't think that, because he's still, regardless, like, I might be #1 to everybody else, and you may see me every time you open up the phone, but he don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to tell people: with your dreams, your goals, whatever you want to do, get in that rhythm.
Yeah.
Don't be complacent. So, like, you want to be one of the best to ever do it. Be one of the best to ever do it the way you see fit.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And it's always going to take you being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It's always going, like you saying, you know, always elevating. Like, elevation comes with a lot of, you know, sacrifices, man.
Yeah.
It comes, you know, you're
going to say no a lot too.
Yeah.
You're going to say no a lot. And you can't beat yourself up for saying no. Because like you sat there and said before, it's like, all right, bet. And I'm saying, oh yeah, man, you know, summertime coming, this 80, 90 degrees. Hey, yo, bro, let's go to this party. Nah, bro, I gotta go close this deal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or, hey, yo, I got to go meet with these people. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes you may not even have to explain yourself, because that may be draining too. It's like, bro, I don't got to, bro.
Yeah,
this is the response. I'm good. Let me go handle my business. I'll holler at you later. Yep. You know what I mean? And be okay with that. And that's what I was learning too. I'm like, bro, as I continue to network and build, it's like, yeah, the work going to speak. So you just keep doing it and staying humble and just staying the course.
Yeah.
That's it, bro. Yeah. So, like, what's the motivation you want to give to those people? Because you said a prime example. You said back in 2017, literally $33,000, you was able to get that and make that shake. So for the people that feel like it's not, like, I don't see it. Like, I'm chasing my dream. I'm trying to do this, but I don't see it. Or to the young kid that wants to dream and feels like my environment is doing too much to the point where I can't even imagine. Like, what would you tell that person?
I would say take accountability. You know, that goes very far. Take accountability. You know, no matter where you at, the rich, the poor, you know, the rich do it all the time. There's times they have to step back and evaluate, okay, what am I doing right now? Identifying where you at right now, and trying to figure out where you're trying to get to. You know what I mean? Like somebody said it best, you know, a lot of people aren't moving forward because they're too busy stuck in their past. You know what I mean? That's just like a vehicle in the park, you know, in the parking lot, or, you know, in you know, street parking. At the end of the day, you have to look, you know, you're not gonna get nowhere looking at the rearview mirror.
Facts.
In order for you to get to your destination, you have to look ahead of you. Facts. Or you're gonna stay right in that parking spot.
Facts.
So that's what I would say. It's just one of them things where no matter where you came from, you know, that's another thing. Life is gonna be life. You know, resiliency is major as well. Life is gonna throw a lot of things at you, but it's all about just staying on that path, staying focused.
Facts.
Cause you gotta really want it. You know what I mean? Like how we doing things right now. Like a lot of times, like this is something that I'm sure you can do, you willing to do without being paid.
Yeah.
Because that's what you passionate about.
Yeah, facts.
That's how I realized that this is the lane that I wanted to be in, because I knew that this is something that I wanted to do and that I could do even if I wasn't getting paid for it. Not to say that's not the goal,
right?
But it's just that the fact that I'm willing to put everything in it, even if money's not involved, because I know money will eventually come around.
Yes, for sure.
So
Yeah, nah, honestly, yeah. And I think it's like just taking the step, man. Like just think of a house. Um, and not only for like real estate purposes, but I'm just saying like think of a house. Every floor, every layer of the house is important. And for everybody, I don't want this to go over anybody's heads. A lot of us, we aim for the top, the attic, right? The attic is so beautiful to be at. But the bottom and the basement is so important too. Because that's
foundation.
where the character is built.
There you
That's
go.
where the day after day, the grit, the grind from
Right.
the one stair to the other stair to the other stair. You don't even know how many stairs is in your
Right.
basement, but every stair is integrity, hope, resilience,
Right.
discipline, grit, whatever you want to name
Yes,
that
indeed.
staircase,
Yes, indeed.
right? And just really embracing the basement because that's where your character is developed.
Yep.
And then as you move up to the living room and you see that too, and then you move up to, of course, the attic in your room and whatever rooms you have, every single room you should see a reflection or a characteristic of yourself.
Right.
Do you love that characteristic of yourself? And if you don't, that's why they remodeled the houses. That's
Yep.
why they add extra things or whatever.
Right.
So you got to look at it that way too as you're building your house. What characters lie in those rooms?
Right.
And are you okay with those characters?
I agree.
So, yeah,
And
build
then,
your house and build it wisely.
right. And typically, you know, when you're building a house or anything, it starts with a foundation, like you
Yeah.
said. You said it best. And you know, I would say another thing that I would tell a lot of everybody, it may be redundant or they might have heard it before, but watch your circle. If you're the smartest one in your circle, then that's not the circle for you. You always want to be challenged. You know what I mean? Like that circle, like you have to have somebody else smarter in that circle so you can to assist with elevating or giving you a different point of view or educating you on things because like you said, that's where you become complacent. You're gonna be like, oh well, I'm smart, I'm the smartest one. Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Right.
So you have to watch your circle. I mean, that's the big, you know, that's a big thing. I would say, you know, that's major.
For sure. Yeah. And then like understanding like, what are you entertaining? You got positive, you got negative. If life is a television, I'm hoping you're watching more positive than negative. Don't let the negative thoughts like just creep up on you to the point where you just stop. Because if you stop, you ain't gonna win.
Yeah.
You gotta keep going so you can win.
Mm-hmm.
Man. So that's what I say. Man, so many gems on this, man. So many gems, man. This was therapeutic. Know what I'm saying? I'm proud of you, man, because you're in a field that a lot of people feel is just cool to be in. And it takes work, it takes resilience, it takes consistency to do it, to show up the way that you do. And then also understanding that the audience and who you're servicing, how intentional you are for them. Because like I said earlier, it's being the voice for the voiceless.
Yeah.
And you embrace that each and every single day. You know what I'm saying? Like every time we're talking, it's like, yeah, I'm grinding. I gotta do this. You know what I'm saying? And salute to you being in your program now that you're working so hard on. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna do well and flourish because it's needed right now.
Definitely
You said that was like,
attention.
Hey, look, man, look. This my focus right now because I'm proud of you. Do what you need to do because at the end of the day, that's gonna make you better and take you to where you need to go, man. So, like I said, God got his hands on you. God got his hands on all of this stuff, and like I said, the best is yet to come.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, man. Again, I'm proud of you, man. I feel like as brothers or just black brothers, sisters, or whomever. We should be able to tell the next man, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely should.
You know what I mean? And, and continue to grind hard and educating these youngers and letting them know that dream so big that people don't believe it is the way to go.
Facts, for sure, man. So, like I said, I appreciate it, man. And you already know the harder you grind, the bigger you dream.
Yeah, it is.
The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. I said the harder you grind, the bigger you dream. And we out.
We out.
Yes, indeed.
Soundstripe.